Welcome to Whispers and Confessions. There might be a twist waiting, so please make sure to watch until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's begin right away.
Her body reminded me of my wife's, but was younger, smoother. Her scent was different, sweeter, and her soft skin drove me wild. We lost ourselves in each other's heat, throwing all morality to the wind. We climaxed together in a wave of intense pleasure. In that moment, the world disappeared, and we were lost in pure ecstasy. Time seemed to stand still as we basked in the afterglow. I'm Henry, a 40-year-old man who's been married to Allison for over a decade. Despite the ups and downs that come with any marriage, we've built a peaceful life together. To the outside world, I probably seemed like your average stable family man. But everything changed a few months ago when my wife's younger sister Nicole moved in with us. Fresh out of college and 26 years old, Nicole said she needed a place to stay while job hunting. Without thinking twice, Allison and I welcomed her, saying, "Of course, make yourself at home." Initially, I saw her as nothing more than my sweet sister-in-law. But Nicole's behavior toward me was far from what you'd expect. Right from the start, she'd keep finding ways to spend time alone with me, asking, "Hey, want to watch some TV while my sister's out?" With these lingering smiles, or offering to help me cook. I brushed it off at first. She was young and naturally friendly, so I figured she was just being outgoing. Everything changed, though, when she started making suggestive comments late at night or early in the morning when Allison wasn't around. One day, as I was lounging on the couch, she crept up behind me, put her hands on my shoulders, and whispered, "Don't you ever get bored being married for so long?" Caught off guard, I responded, "What do you mean bored? What are you saying about your sister and me?" But Nicole just giggled and said, "I'm just messing with you. But come on, don't you ever want to spice things up?" All while giving me this intense look. As days went by, I couldn't ignore that the way she looked at me wasn't innocent sisterly affection. Things reached a breaking point one night when Allison was away on business. I got home late to find Nicole had set up an intimate dinner scene with wine and appetizers. "You must be exhausted," she said. "Since my sister's away, why don't we stay up and talk?" She was dressed more provocatively than usual, and her voice had this sultry quality to it. I knew something was off, but it felt awkward to just shut her down. I tried to laugh it off with a, "Come on, we shouldn't be drinking together all night." But I ended up sitting down anyway. One drink led to another, and the vibe got increasingly dangerous. Nicole scooted closer, wine glass in hand, and said, "You know, since I've been living here, I've noticed you're so much more thoughtful and interesting than my sister." Even when I tried to deflect with, "Hey, don't talk about your sister like that," she pressed on, "I'm just being honest. There's something about you that makes me feel comfortable." The sexual tension was unmistakable, and while I should have shut it down right there with a firm "This is wrong, I need to leave," I'll admit part of me was excited by her advances. That night, we crossed a point of no return. Though I'd been drinking, I wasn't blackout drunk. When Nicole leaned in and whispered, "This isn't so bad, just the two of us. Actually, I want to take things further," my judgment was already shot. We stared at each other in silence. The living room crackled with tension, filled with her heavy breathing and the lingering scent of wine. In that moment, my last shred of self-control vanished. She lunged forward and kissed me deeply. We pressed against each other, breathing heavily. Maybe it was the wine, maybe it was pure lust, but we lost ourselves completely. We stripped each other's clothes off and gave in to our desires. That night, our living room sofa became the stage for our forbidden passion as we explored each other with reckless abandon. In those moments, we weren't in-laws anymore, just a man and woman consumed by desire. Her body reminded me of my wife's, but was younger, smoother. Her scent was different, sweeter, and her soft skin drove me wild. We lost ourselves in each other's heat, throwing all morality to the wind. We climaxed together in a wave of intense pleasure. In that moment, the world disappeared, and we were lost in pure ecstasy. Time seemed to stand still as we basked in the afterglow. When morning came, my first thought was, what have I done? But Nicole was surprisingly cool about it, saying, don't worry, this'll be our little secret. When I tried to reason, this was wrong. We shouldn't have. She just gave me this unwavering look. What's done was done. From that point on, Nicole and I fell into a dangerous pattern. We'd act normal when Allison was around, but the moment she left, Nicole would find ways to get me alone, saying things like, hey, can we have some private time? Once I gave in to that forbidden temptation, I was caught in quicksand. The more I struggled, the deeper I sank. Though conflicting feelings of shame and excitement, I found myself caught in a twisted mix of shame and excitement, simultaneously dreading and eagerly awaiting our nightly encounters. Then came the bombshell. Nicole casually announced, hey, I've started seeing someone. What floored me even more was her brazen admission that her new boyfriend couldn't measure up to our encounters. My mind was reeling. A boyfriend? Is she serious? This is a whole new level of betrayal. The situation got even more surreal when she suggested, I want things to work with him, but I wish he could be more like you. Maybe you could teach him your ways. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The situation reached peak absurdity when Nicole actually brought her boyfriend over. With Allison either visiting her parents or caught up at work, it was just the three of us. The guy seemed completely innocent, and Nicole had the nerve to introduce me by saying, my brother-in-law here is like my personal relationship expert. He's got tons of experience with dating and marriage. I was paralyzed with guilt and disbelief, but her boyfriend, totally oblivious to everything, just smiled warmly and said, thanks for looking out for us. When he stepped away for a moment, Nicole shot me a playful wink and whispered, with your guidance, he could turn into quite the catch, don't you think? The whole thing felt like some twisted joke. Here I was, already deeply involved in an affair with Nicole, and now I was supposed to be some kind of relationship mentor to her boyfriend? Nicole seemed to get a kick out of this twisted game, and somehow, I remained trapped in her web. Sometimes panic would set in. What if Allison discovers everything? What if her boyfriend catches on and all hell breaks loose? But Nicole would always quiet these fears with a subtle threat. Don't worry, I'll keep our secret safe. Just don't even think about ending things. I was living a complete double life. Responsible professional by day, devoted husband when Allison was around, and Nicole's lover whenever we got the chance. The most bizarre moments were when her boyfriend would visit, and I'd have to play the role of wise older brother figure. Nicole would pour fuel on the fire, saying things like, Henry gives the best relationship advice, essentially turning her two relationships into some sick competition. I kept telling myself, I need to come clean to Allison and get Nicole out of our house, but I could never follow through. The terrifying truth was that I couldn't fully break free from the intoxicating hold Nicole had over me. With her boyfriend now in the picture, this whole situation had turned into something straight out of a soap opera, but my biggest problem was my own weakness. I just couldn't find the strength to end it. Even as I write this confession, hoping it might help me snap out of this mess, I'm disgusted with myself. Sometimes I think, maybe it would be better if I got caught and Allison just ended everything. That's how complicated and torturous this web of lies has become, and I'm too far gone to easily find my way back. For days on end, I wrestled with the need to end things with Nicole. I knew it was completely wrong to carry on with Nicole under the same roof, especially now that she had a boyfriend in the picture. But whenever I tried to firmly tell Nicole, we need to stop, I found myself powerless. She made it clear she wouldn't let go, and I was terrified of Allison finding out if I pushed too hard. Meanwhile, Allison had started picking up on changes in my behavior. We used to share everything about our days after work, but lately, she noticed I'd become withdrawn and distracted. When she'd ask with concern in her voice, "Honey, something seems off with you lately. Is everything okay?" I'd nervously glance at Nicole before mumbling, "I've just been really overwhelmed with work lately." My perceptive wife was picking up on something being off. Then Nicole pushed things even further when her boyfriend came over again. Taking advantage of my wife being out, Nicole said casually, "Hey, my boyfriend's coming over tonight. Why don't you hang out with us?" When I hesitated, she fixed me with an intense stare and whispered, "Come on, you owe me. I'm keeping your secret, after all." Her tone was sweet, but carried an unmistakable threat. So there I was, sitting anxiously in the living room, waiting for her boyfriend to show up. He turned out to be this young and innocent-looking guy who seemed way more innocent than me, which only made me feel worse about the whole situation. I couldn't help wondering how he'd react if he knew what was really going on between his girlfriend and her brother-in-law. He walked in all friendly, saying, "Great to properly meet you. We only briefly met before." And then Nicole threw me this loaded question. "What do you think of him?" My mind was screaming, "This is insane." But I kept my cool and just said, "Well, if Nicole's happy with you, that's what matters." Things got even more twisted when Nicole started encouraging him. "My brother-in-law here is like a relationship expert. He can teach you all about treating women right." Then out of nowhere, the boyfriend asks, "Nicole mentions she wishes I was more assertive. Any advice?" I'm thinking, how did I end up in this nightmare? Meanwhile, Nicole's adding fuel to the fire with comments like, "Oh yeah, Henry really knows how to take charge," while shooting me these knowing looks. The whole thing felt surreal. Here she was, basically asking me to teach this guy the intimate details of our affair. Wasn't it bad enough that I was sleeping with my wife's sister under our own roof? Now I had to play relationship coach to her boyfriend? But Nicole kept pushing it, dropping hints and giving me these playful looks, while I sat there on edge all day. The boyfriend, totally clueless, kept saying things like, "Man, you've been with Allison forever. You must know all the secrets to making relationships work." I really want to make Nicole happy, but I'm still figuring things out. I forced a smile and gave him the safest possible answer. Just keep the communication open and show respect. Inside, I was losing it. This wasn't just a love triangle anymore. It was some kind of twisted four-way mess, and I felt torn between wanting to end things with Nicole and being hopelessly drawn to her. Even though I knew Allison finding out would destroy everything, I couldn't break free from Nicole after everything we'd shared. When she suddenly said, "Come to my room now. Forget about him. I need you." I tried to put my foot down. "We have to stop this. We're going too far." But Nicole just smiled sweetly and dropped the bomb. "We crossed that line ages ago. Try to leave me, and sis finds out everything." I felt completely trapped. She had me cornered, and since I was too chicken to come clean to my wife, I'd become her puppet. Her boyfriend kept showing up, peppering me with questions about relationships. Like when he asked, "Nicole says I should be more bold. How do I do that without making it weird?" I was losing my grip on reality. Nicole would chime in with these loaded comments like, "Oh yeah, Henry definitely knows what I like," leaving me muttering under my breath, "This is absolute madness." The situation became even more complicated as Nicole maintained her relationship with her boyfriend while continuing our affair. The anxiety of potential discovery by either of them, or worse, by my wife, was eating me alive. Every night, I'd lie awake regretting the path I'd chosen, but feeling powerless to change course. Nicole would try to ease my conscience with unsettling comments like, "Don't stress too much, Henry. Sure, I might compare you to my boyfriend every time I'm with him, but that's my problem to deal with," complete with that twisted smile of hers. Our relationship had become something straight out of a psychological thriller. After about a month of living this double life, Allison began picking up on the strange vibes. She'd give me these worried looks and say things like, "Something feels off in this house. There's this weird tension between you and Nicole." Thankfully, she hadn't connected the dots yet. The whole situation was beyond comprehension. A married man having an affair with his sister-in-law under the same roof. I knew I had to act before Allison's suspicions grew stronger, but I felt paralyzed between two impossible choices. Either somehow getting Nicole to move out or coming clean to my wife about everything. While I wrestled with this decision, Nicole's boyfriend started showing up more frequently, making everything 10 times more complicated. I'd watch them play the perfect couple in front of Allison, becoming a nervous wreck the whole time, while my wife sensed the awkward atmosphere without knowing why. In my more irrational moments, I'd catch myself having these messed up thoughts like, what if her boyfriend can't satisfy her and she ends up needing me more? I'm fully aware of how screwed up this is, but I'm caught in a web of my own making, and I can't seem to find my way out alone. Sure, everyone would say, just come clean to your wife and kick Nicole out. It's that simple. And yeah, logically, I know that's right. But we're in so deep now, and I'm terrified of Nicole's potential reaction and the devastating impact it would have on my wife. Plus, there's the very real fear that her boyfriend might get violent if he finds out. This toxic situation is slowly poisoning everyone involved. My family, Nicole, all of us. Yet I can't seem to break free. That's why I'm writing this all down. These days, I practically jump out of my skin whenever Nicole knocks on my door at night, and every time her boyfriend texts asking for relationship advice. I feel this mix of dread and self-loathing. Yet somehow, I still can't cut ties with Nicole. I know it's decision time, but when I think about how many lives this will impact, it feels like I can't breathe. I spend every night before bed wrestling with my thoughts about what to do. Sometimes I convince myself that the easiest solution would be to just help Nicole move out and bury this whole mess. At least then I wouldn't have to break my wife's heart. But who am I kidding? Is sweeping my mistakes under the rug really the way to protect my family? This has to end, not just for my wife and our marriage, but for Nicole's sake too. She'll never have a healthy relationship while we're carrying on like this, and eventually, it's going to destroy her life as well. On one side, I'm paralyzed by the thought that coming clean could tear our family apart forever. The idea of the pain this would cause my wife of 10 years makes me physically ill. I'm worried about Nicole's future too. This revelation will leave some serious emotional scars. And the drama with our parents? That's going to be brutal. Still, I've made up my mind. This weekend, even though my hands are shaking just thinking about it, I'm going to tell my wife everything and beg for her forgiveness. She might not be able to forgive me, and divorce might be inevitable, but I know this is the only right choice left. I can't keep living this lie anymore. Even if my wife can't forgive me, at least coming clean might help me start to forgive myself.